And also joining us in the broadcast, we've got Mr. T.S. Krishnamurthy, the former Chief Election Commissioner of India, is joining us on this broadcast. Sir, thank you very much indeed for joining us here and beyond. Now, I want to talk to you a bit about, the logistics of conducting an election of this scale, considering the number of people who, of course, were eligible to come out and vote, and the number of polling stations, of course, that have to be set up to accommodate all of these people. Now, the Karnataka elections saw as many as about 2,430 candidates who took part, for which there were 58,000 polling stations that were set up. So just for one state and for the election to be held in just one leg, how much of a logistical challenge is it?
Well, conducting an election in India is indeed a great achievement because of the population, size of the population, voting population, as well as the geographical compulsions and conditions. And a state like Karnataka, with nearly 6.5 crores of people, it has been a big challenge to the Election Commission. But the main lesson that you learn from this particular election is the fact that the electronic voting machines have proved their credibility. So very often, the opposition party, the party which loses the election, immediately puts the blame on the Election Commission and the electronic voting machine. I am more than convinced that it is a robust machine, and there is no doubt about its credibility, and it has proved itself, because there should not be any impression that the ruling party has an advantage or an unfair advantage in using the electronic voting machine. Now, it is beyond any doubt. In fact, in the recent elections, most of the state elections, we have seen different results have taken place, and that only goes to prove the credibility of the electronic voting machines.
Absolutely. I think you've made an important point there, sir, because this was a question, that will keep coming up election after election. But although, today that's not an issue that's been discussed a lot. But I want to ask you a larger question. You've said that the elections today, they've gone on very smoothly. The counting happened, and the fact that it is the electronic voting machines, so the counting is so much more faster. But I want to ask you this larger question, because there are countries such as the United States, for instance, such as Germany, who at a point of time did want to use electronic voting machines as a part of their democratic electoral process. But then they went back because they were not completely convinced that it is not possible to meddle with the electoral process by using EVM machines. Is there something that India perhaps should also look at? Because
no, as far as the American election,
the realms of possibility, because the fact that it is an electronic voting machine, it is still possible.
As far as the electronic voting machines are concerned, in the US, the machines were manufactured by a private sector firm, and it was not manufactured under government control, whereas the Indian electronic voting machines are manufactured in defense-oriented public sector undertaking with enough safeguards. Again, in US, the electronic voting machine is not used in all constituencies, because the states have to decide what kind of electoral system should be followed. So some states use the electronic voting machine, some use conventional method, and so on. But in Brazil, where the electronic voting machine is used, it's quite credible. Nobody has questioned its credibility. And in some of the states, they have shown interest in our voting machine. But the only thing is, we have not been able to probably market the voting machine in other countries. But I have no doubts about the fact that Indian voting machine is simple, is credible, and robust.
All right, point taken. My last question with respect to electronic voting machines, even if we say that because the electronic voting machine is not connected to the internet and therefore it is a system in itself, in every election there are these videos that start doing the rounds on social media of electronic voting machines being found in the vehicles of certain private individuals. People have raised questions about, electronic voting machines being found in these individuals, and then questions are asked, how is it that these electronic voting machines that should be in the custody of the election commission that is conducting the elections are found with certain private individuals?
There are clear instructions about the custody of the electronic voting machine, the transportation of the machines, etc. In one or two constituencies, it is true that these instructions were not complied with, but you cannot blame the electronic voting machine for that. It is the men who are handling the machines had failed to comply with the regulations. So you cannot blame the electronic voting machine. I agree that our training and our monitoring the system has to improve. But by and large, in most of the elections, the electronic voting machines have been properly kept in proper custody and proper arrangements have been made. The second point I want to make is the voting results clearly indicate that our voting system of first past post system seems to have outlived its utility because many places people are able to win with 25% of the votes polled.
Absolutely.
The first past post system should go, and we should insist on minimum 33 and 1/3% of votes polled to be won by the winner. There are many countries which have introduced 33 and 1/3% as the threshold. There are other countries that have set 50% plus one vote as the threshold. So we must change it. Otherwise, the people who are representing the representatives elected are representing only less than 25% of the voting population.
All right, very interesting. Thank you very much indeed, sir, for joining us here on WION and sharing those insights with us.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.